One of the things that stumps new writers is the idea of generating ideas, right? How do I generate my ideas to start writing my book? And so a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to start outlining. I'm just going to start creating my story by having this outline. And what I'd like you to do is actually take a step back. Before you start outlining, you need to do something else, which we're going to talk about today. You have a story to tell, but you don't know where to start. Let me show you how to free your story. I teach you how to write and how to dig deep in your soul to release your story and make a difference in the world. Welcome to the Julie Amante channel. If we're just meeting, I am Julie Amante. I'm a women's fiction author, and I come to you on Fridays to give you some writing tips that hopefully will help you to write your book. And this year, at least at the beginning of the year here, I am going to be focusing some of my my videos on just these more specific tips on how to write a book. And today we're going to talk about ideas. Okay, so how do you generate those ideas? Where do those ideas come from? So let me tell you what I used to do. Okay, so you know, you've heard that there are pantsers and there are pantsers that basically are just sitting down and writing their story without really thinking too much about it. They just sit down and they start writing and creating their story, and then they go back and they organize it later. And then there are the people that are more organized, maybe, and they create outlines and they have all kinds of information about their book so that when they start to write, they already have their outline, they have their character sketches, they have all these things to pull from for when they start writing. So I was definitely a pantser for many years, and I still sort of am. But I think I'm a more organized pantser now than I used to be. I still find it fun, and I still find it that I'm able to develop a story better if I just sit down and I start writing. I start to see where the story goes. Now, what used to happen is that that's exactly what I would do, right? I would sit down and I would start to write and see where the characters led me. And the problem is that sometimes they led me to nowhere, or they led me to places where I didn't want to go. That's not the type of story I wanted to write. So all of a sudden, this character was doing something that way out of what the story that I had in mind was. So I didn't want that, right? I didn't want to have my character kind of hijack my story or my brain go in a different direction because I happened to have seen a show or something, and that's what was in my mind that day, and that's what I tended to write. So I needed to have a little bit more, I needed to be a little bit more organized, and I needed to outline a little bit, right? And I did have an editor at the time that was saying, you know, you need to submit an outline. So I need to know like really what you're writing. So kind of having her push me a little bit and having myself realize that what I was doing wasn't working made me be a little more organized. But I found that just jumping into an outline didn't work. So if I have no idea what I'm writing about, I don't know what the story is going to be about. I might have an idea for a setting. I might have an idea for a character. I might have an idea that I want to write about this topic, but I might not know exactly what the story is. So to me, how can I sit down and create an outline about something that I know nothing about? I just didn't, it wasn't working for me. So what I learned to do when I started doing was to do more brainstorming or more of getting ideas down on paper. And so this is the way that I did it, okay? I said, okay, what is it that I know? What do I know already about this? Maybe I knew more about the character. Maybe I knew some certain scenes that I wanted to include in the book. Maybe I had a bit of dialogue. I just had this recently happen where I'm thinking of the new book that I'm going to write, and I thought of something. I don't know if it's going to be an opening line, but it just came to me. I was doing nothing. I was getting ready. I was putting makeup on and getting ready to do something. And then this piece, these words, it's not even going to be dialogue. I don't think it's going to be dialogue. It's going to be something probably that the character is thinking. And it just came to me. And where? I have no idea. It just came to me, right? So I decided that I'm going to write that down. So what I do is I do exactly that. I have, and we'll talk more about organization in another video, like how do you organize all these things. But right now, what I want you to think about is just dumping this into something. I don't care where. It can be in a journal. It could be in a document. But just get these things out of here. So I just went and I wrote down that thought or that sentence that I had. I don't know where it's going to fit. I don't know what I'm going to do with it right now. It was just something that I think fit that story. So sometimes it's going to be things about your character. It's going to be, you might know your character very well. What you're doing now is you're writing what you know. So you might know, like, okay, I want my character to look this way. I want my character to, be male, be female, be of this ethnicity, whatever it is that you know about the character. I want this character to have this job. This character is going to have children. This character, whatever it is that you envision for this character that you already know. Excuse me, I want to make sure. Okay, that my sound is working okay. There you go. So anything that you already know about the story, I want you to get it down somewhere. So you're kind of brain dumping right now. You're getting everything that you know. So sometimes it might be a character, sometimes it might be setting, sometimes it might be plot idea, sometimes it might be dialogue. Any of that stuff that you absolutely, and by absolutely, I'm thinking absolutely no, right? But you might not absolutely know it. It's just something that you think at this point, I know that my character is going to be this. It doesn't mean that he can't change, right? So my main character might be a male, and then I may decide that, you know what, no, I actually want my main character to be a female. I want I might think for sure I want my story to take place in New York City. And then I may decide as I'm writing the story later that no, actually, I don't want it to be in a city at all. I need it to be in this type of town. So what I know today doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go into the story, okay? But I'm getting everything that I think I know, everything that I would like to have in that book down on a paper. Now, it might be one sheet of paper. It might end up being 20 sheets of paper. It might be all kinds of, it might be, cards. If somebody doesn't want to write it like on a document, it might be like multiple little cards that you have. So again, we'll talk about how to organize this later. But right now, just get all of that down somewhere. Okay, so you might be thinking that this is great if I kind of have an idea of what I want to write. Like I kind of know I want my story to be about this, or I kind of know that I want this to be the character, but I really don't know, much more than that. But I do know some things. But what if you are starting at zero? What if you know nothing? Like you're just saying, I really would like to write a story someday. I'd like to write a book, but I have no idea what to write about. Okay, then your brain dump is going to be a little bit different. Your kind of your list of ideas is going to look different. And the first thing that you should do, or that I'd like you to do, is think about books that you've read or stories that you've liked in the past. What is it that you liked about that? Why did you like that book? Why did you like that story? Why did you like that movie? I want you just to make a list of some of those things. I liked such and such book because I really loved this character. I loved the way this character spoke. I really liked her personality. I liked this other book because I really loved the way the author presented the story and the way that the author slowly developed what was happening in the plot, and it actually ended up being something a little different than what I thought it was going to be, and I loved that excitement, okay, of this twist. Or I really loved this other story that took place in Italy, and it just made me want to go to Italy. Okay, so whatever it is that that really made you love that book, I want you to write that down. Just write down the books and write down why it is that you like that. Maybe some of your favorite authors. Why do you like those books? Okay, and then something else that I'd like you to write down is your passions and the things that you like. Okay, and it can be anything, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. Maybe you enjoy gardening, maybe you enjoy bike riding, maybe you enjoy, I don't know, going to the beach, whatever it is that you love doing, cooking, right? So it doesn't have to be going somewhere. It can be just something that you like doing. Maybe you're part of some kind of club that you like going to, like participating in. Maybe you love candles. I don't know, whatever it is that you like, right? So what I want you to do is write down those things that you like. And the reason that I have you do this, or I want you to do this, is because when you're doing that, it helps you to kind of come up with story ideas. So as an example, an author, her name is Nevada Barr, I think. And what she has done is created a whole series of books, all that take place in national parks. And I found her when I went to a national park one time, and I was going through the gift shop, and I just kind of picking up some books, and I saw that she had like these mysteries, right? That sounded really interesting. I'm like, wow, here's a mystery that takes place here. That's interesting, right? That's cool that they sell it here because it takes place here. So it was like in, it was in New Mexico when I went to see the caves out there, right? And so she had a mystery that took place in the cave, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. So I bought the book. I went to buy it, and when I was talking to the cashier, he says, "Oh yeah, she's got a whole series of books, and they all take place in the national parks." I'm like, "Wow, that's interesting." And I bought the book. I came home. I looked her up, and I learned that she decided to do this because she loved the national parks. She actually became a ranger at some point, and she had done all kinds of stuff. I think she had done acting, but anyhow, she had a passion for the park. She loved the park. She ended up working for the parks and then writing mysteries that took place at the different parks. And I thought, how cool is that? She took something that she loved. She loved going to all these different parks, and she probably, if you love going to national parks, what a great excuse to go, right? I'm going to write a novel here, so I'm going to go do my research at the national parks. So think of things that you love. Think of things that excite you that maybe might become like the scene of your book, or it might become something that the character does. So write those things down. What are the things that you love, that you're interested in, and don't judge them. Just write them down, because who would have thought, she could write this many books about all the various national parks in the country. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, and another thing that you can do is look at the headlines in magazines or the news, and so avoid the first few things. The A page, where you have all the national news and the politics and all of that. I mean, unless you want to write a political thriller or something, then okay, you've probably got a lot to work from what is going on in the world today. But there's other things that happen that are interesting as well. And sometimes reading headlines of things that are happening in the real world kind of sparks your interest and your creativity. So just write some of those things down. Write some interesting things that you can come up with that you read. Okay, and so that kind of will give you hopefully maybe some ideas, and then generate some ideas of what you can write and what stories might pop up in your mind. Okay, so now that you have some ideas, what do you do with them? Well, now is when you start to play the what if game. What if this happened? What if that happened? And it's something that all writers do, right? So we take our ideas, and we say, well, okay, well, what if this happened? So then what would happen? And what if that happened? Then what would happen then, right? So we start to kind of create the story by imagining different scenarios. So let's say that you have a character who is pregnant and ends up having a miscarriage, okay? And then she finds out, she's very sad, right? She finds out that a lot of women in her